and gentlemen, I'm extremely delighted and privileged to be associated with this convocation in this very prestigious institute which has been set up almost entirely with the support of the Reserve Bank of India. The institute set up in 1987. From the director's report, it was clear that it's developed and evolved into a very prestigious academic and research institute. Those who are privileged to have the benefit of education in this institution are certainly a fortunate and a privileged group, because these days it's not the degree alone or your capability alone, but also the prestige of the institution from where you get that degree, which adds to your stature and ability. All the scholars who've been awarded the doctoral degrees today, I congratulate them. They now become a part of the larger knowledge and academic pool of human resource that is available in this country. The batch that has been awarded their postgraduate degrees could also be at the stage of launching themselves into a career, or in the interim stage of working and then choosing the stream that they wanted to go into. Switching disciplines is also now a part of the academic world. The director mentioned that almost 70% of those being awarded degrees today in the post-graduations are young ladies. We indeed did see that. And that's not merely a phenomenon of this institute. But I have not read an authoritative analysis of why this is becoming a larger phenomenon. For the last decade and a half, I've had an opportunity to go to several universities at their convocations. And without an exception, that it's almost a pattern. I myself studied in a college at a time when there were only 7 girl students. I graduated from there between 1970 and 73. I continue to be associated with the management of the college, so I have to visit that every year. Today there are 65% of them. And if you move northwards, states like Haryana, states like Punjab, it's almost 80 to 90%. But I have not been able to honestly analyze the reason, and I'm sure some academic would go around the country, at least in the prestigious institutions. And I don't say it grudgingly, but realistically as to why this reverse discrimination has started. But in any case, in a society where this was a big challenge, sending a girl student to a school itself was a big challenge, I think this is a greatly welcome phenomenon. Well, most of you enter into a career stream. And India today is changing. There's already a substantial change which has taken place in the last over 2 decades. Twenty, 25 years ago, an academic post-graduating in a economics degree would either think of pursuing an academic career in a university, or the more enterprising would do a course in management. Very few would go abroad. Those who had that opportunity. But today there is a vast career ahead of you. And there are going to be many, many options. There will be options in government, there will be options in academic institutions. Some of you could switch over to management, some could switch over to commercial or corporate law, some could get into private sector, some could get into media. Because the space available for both public discourse as also job opportunities with those who have been qualified with your background is now expanding. I've been seeing changes of this from small incidents that confront us. Just now, a few weeks ago, Jammu and Kashmir went to elections. And in early December, or was it late November, while the Kashmir Valley was voting, I had an opportunity to go there for a detailed interaction. I spoke for about 50 minutes, followed by 1.5 hours of an auditorium as big as this, packed with different sections from academics from the university, students, traders, businessmen, and a 1.5 hour discussion. And I had gone prepared thinking that in the Kashmir Valley, with all the issues in the background, the discussion would center around only very critical political issues which confront them. And in a 1.5 hour discussion, where at least 30 to 40 people asked questions and wanted clarifications, voiced their opinions, I was surprised that not one question on politics was asked. Each and every person who got up, whether he was a houseboat owner, or they were government employees, or they were university academics, the students got up and asked me questions on why the scholarships was not reaching them. The impact of the floods and why people are entitled to be helped by the central government and the state government on account of that. In various segments, the houseboats have been smashed. At the end of the day, every question was around governance, and every question was around the economy of the people living there. That was an area that interested them much more than voicing the traditional grievances which I had anticipated. I'll give you another illustration. We move on from issues to issues, but last May we finished our general elections. And this was one general election where popular aspiration and governance issues came into the forefront. Now, people have analyzed it in various ways: personalities, parties, and so on. But if you look at one big message, which also indicates in the same direction as this discussion I had in the Kashmir Valley does. We've traditionally had elections where we analyze them on basis of caste and religious combinations and who won why. But look at two patterns which emerged. Every political party, without an exception, and this is true of the Hindi heartland, which contests elections with the support of a particular social group, which is a synonym for a caste. You look at Bihar, you look at UP, you look at any other state, Haryana, without exception, each one of them lost the election. Somebody got 0, somebody got 5, somebody got 2. So those who depended on social constituencies did succeed. Now if you start from Kashmir and go up to Tamil Nadu and analyze the map of India in front of you, even regional, not only national, all political parties which depended on personality and particularly family charismas and family dynasties, irrespective of the political side they were on, without an exception lost the game. So two traditional factors which were always an instrument for helping people to win, we actually saw a reversal. Because the core issue in front was not the charisma of an individual or a family, or which caste supports whom. The popular aspiration was governance. And therefore, if you translate it to how the media has evolved, today, a much larger discussion, the number of business and economic channels which have started, the number of economic papers which have started, even in regional languages. I'm told the largest selling economic paper, and that's also for traditional reasons, in Gujarati, is selling even more than its English counterpart. So even those who can't read the English language are trying to follow up that news, which is essentially not political news, in the regional language papers. And if I've seen, after our government took over, and we started a series of steps, a large part of the parliamentary time, and also the government's energy, the cabinet's time, is being consumed debating not so much the political issues, but substantially the governance issues, which almost gets directly related to economic issues. The reason I mentioned is, if you draw up the string from Kashmir to the election results, to the changing media scene, to the center stage agenda of parliaments, this country is changing. And therefore we are moving towards a situation, and therefore when people make erratic statements, the popular impression, and rightly so, and the criticism is, why are you deflecting from the core issues? Let's come back to governance. Look, this is a significant change which is taking place. India of 2015 is entirely different from India of 1971 or or the 1970s or the 1960s. And this change, I think, is significantly going to impact on our lives. So each one of those institutions, whether it is policy makers or it's civil servants or it's editors of newspapers or it's anchors on media or it's chief executives of corporations and companies, if you don't educate yourself and keep yourself acquainted with these issues in seriousness, that you are out of your depth and unable to discharge the responsibility is going to be clear. And I think institutions like the Indira Gandhi Institute of Development Research and those who are a part of this institution, both in the faculty, students and those passing out, I think have a very important role to play. This is going to be the center stage India. And therefore, even when you go to a village, you will have to speak about the rural infrastructure, you will have to speak about water availability. Why is it that a very simple idea like the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan across received a very wide support? Yesterday I had called the social sector activists, and there was an activist representing a large number of Dalit organizations. Now, unlike most of us who see health and cleanliness issues in this, he saw entirely something else. His presentation was that to break the caste barrier, it's a great campaign. Because this dirty job earlier used to be done by us because we belong to a particular caste. Today the whole country is assuming it has to be its own responsibility. So he saw it as something which may eventually go and dismantle the caste. The villages are speaking about it. And I think behind this and its acceptability is the social and economic idea rather than the popular appeal alone, which is going to sustain it. And therefore, in this changing India, what the director mentioned, that evolving these institutes into an effective think tanks which can free from the burden of what's going on outside, actually analyze and give suggestions and advice. Earlier we never used to realize the power behind the think tanks that developed economies have. And today at least I have started realizing that we need to encourage scholarship. India deserves to have these think tanks literally in hundreds, in almost every sphere of activity. And I've been wondering to myself, I occasionally ask people, what can the government do in order to do some hand-holding and nudge them? Can we do it with some tax rebates given to some people who invest in these and then maintain an arm's length distance? You need scholars who only think, discuss, write and advise, and who are not burdened with the day-to-day pressures of how to earn a livelihood for themselves or their families. And I think your suggestion of evolving these institutions into a think tank is extremely welcome, and I'm sure many others will emulate this example. I thank you once again for inviting me to this convocation, and I wish all those who are passing out with degrees all the very best. One changing aspect of India is that you have various courses open ahead of you. You have a special fast track for the brightest. And those who at the initial stage of their career get into that fast track will see the great dividends being delivered to them for the rest of their lives. I wish you all the very best and my congratulations to all those who have been conferred with these degrees today. Thank you.